What about the set bonuses? What, you mean regular skills unique to certain armor sets? No, like skills that you unlock from wearing multiple pieces of the same armor. So like multiple ranks of the same skill? No, you don't get it. Let me ask Hammond. Never mind. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, skills are fun. They're the main thing that make our builds function as a whole, and while many skills are just around to provide pure statistical bonuses, some fill a bit more of a niche role in the game. One that either changes your playstyle completely or at least gives you random utility benefits that can totally alter your experience in general. In Iceborne, there were loads of these, and for the most part, they were made into set bonuses, things that you got for wearing multiple pieces of the same monster's armor. However, in Rise and Sunbreak, we no longer have set bonuses. They are nowhere to be seen. We do have skills that work as sort of equivalent, such as Bloodlust on Shagaru Magala's armor, the Storm Soul skill on Ibushi and Narwa armor, or Dereliction on Geismagorm's armor. These are all unique skills that you can't get anywhere else than on their armor, not on talismans or decorations or anything. However, I have two main reasons that I don't really count these as the same thing. Firstly, for Bloodlust and Dereliction, equipping one rank of these skills is extremely efficient by itself. The way that they scale, the first rank is sort of the strongest one individually, and then the others just make the skill stronger as you go. But the first rank is the most important, and so you can equip the skill effectively with just a single piece of armor. On top of that, the vast majority of these skills just sort of give you more damage. Dereliction gives you damage at the cost of having your health drained, and I guess playing with one switch skill scroll. Bloodlust gives you the frenzy debuff and drains your health, but also buffs your stats in general just for having it. As a result, these skills don't really change the way that you play at all, so much as simply rewarding you for playing normally, for doing damage, the way that you would with any other build, just a standard playstyle with your weapon. My problem with that is, well, it makes these skills sort of boring.
Too bad you're a stick in the mud.
As for Storm Soul, the other one that I mentioned earlier, this skill is a little bit unique in how it functions at the higher levels, just increasing the ranks of the skills on the armor set itself. This is cool, of course, but this sort of just goes the other direction entirely. For this skill to work properly, you need to wear literally 5 pieces of armor between these two sets, and then the skills that you get are just sort of set in stone because it's just the skills on the armor itself. It doesn't count decorations, it can't have skills augmented in through Qurio crafting, and it doesn't boost talisman skills either. The reason that I like set bonuses is the way that they completely change the way that you think about builds, either providing just a random cool bonus for using armor you already would have, something like the Anjanath set bonus in Iceborne. With 4 pieces you get a higher stamina cap in general, and with 2 pieces you activate Adrenaline, which reduces stamina depletion when you're below 40% health. This one isn't completely build defining, but Anjanath armor wasn't bad, and so it became just a nice bonus for equipping some of those pieces anyways. An example of one that is instead build defining is the Draken armor set from the Final Fantasy collaboration. The 2 set bonus of this was Elemental Airborne, which increased elemental damage on jump attacks, which essentially just became a lifestyle for most Insect Glaive players for ages afterwards. One that instead affected way more people though was the Velkhana bonus, Froscraft. This set bonus gave you various stages of damage increase depending on how many hits you had done since your last sheath. Essentially, it made you stronger the more often that you sheathed your weapon, enabling crit draw builds to be way stronger and even play a little bit differently because it wasn't as simple as the first attack after drawing did more damage and nothing else. It had depreciating value over the number of hits that you do, which let you mess with it in much more interesting ways. For example, this skill became incredible specifically with longsword due to the Froscraft gauge recovering when you were in your special sheath stance. For other weapons it wormed its way in as well, even for hammer. It even created an entire way of playing heavy bowgun where you would just do clutch claw attacks without ever drawing your weapon. It was incredible, and it created a number of unique builds all by itself.
It was our special thing.
And then it was gone. Of course, it was tied to a specific monster that hasn't returned, but it was such an incredible set bonus, and I wish that we'd seen anything even close to it in Rise and Sunbreak, honestly. Another cool example was the Valhazak armor set bonus Super Recovery, which essentially just gave you permanent health regeneration. No matter what was happening, whether you had red health or not, you just would regen health slowly and consistently. This skill let you play way more aggressively, forgo potions, and you can even build around it to be nigh unkillable. Another fun skill that came through this and hasn't come back is Critical Status, which was of course the status equivalent of Crit Element, and it made a number of builds more fun to use in my opinion. Iceborne was absolutely full of these set bonuses, all kinds, all sorts, from little niche utility things on lower tier monsters all the way up to these massive power increasing build changers that I've talked about, and I missed them all. Probably my biggest complaint overall about Sunbreak is quite simply that the build diversity isn't really there. The niche skills exist as a way to just give you damage increases in different ways, but all of them just reward you for hunting the way that you always would. It does incentivize weird situations, but not weird playstyles, and one of my favorite things to do in Monster Hunter games is make those weird playstyle builds. Set building is still fun in Rise and Sunbreak, of course, but there's just something super satisfying about mixing something like a 3-piece set bonus with a 2-piece set bonus together in Iceborne to make your perfect build. It felt like you were an armor wizard or something like that. Whether or not we see Velkhana back in future Monster Hunter games, I really hope that Froscraft, or some equivalent to it, does return. I hope that set bonuses as a whole return, in fact, because while the current system does work, I think it worked a little bit better before. Honestly, in the end, it may not even be about the set bonuses themselves, so much as just the types of skills that we're getting in general. Things like Foray are cool in theory, but something that just increases your damage when a monster is suffering from a status or elemental blight is more of just a bonus when you're using a poison or paralysis build.
That was already happening.
That said, there are a couple of skills that I do quite like that were added in Sunbreak, but neither of them were part of the base game. They were added in Title Update 1, and these specifically are Status Trigger, which essentially changes the entire way that status works for a bit when you roll through an attack. It's fun, and you can synergize it with some other skills to create a very evasion-heavy build that boosts your damage when successful. It's a neat one, and it makes you want to play a little bit differently, because you focus instead of positional dodging on dodging directly through attacks, which most players just often don't. The other big one that I find interesting is Sneak Attack on the Lucent Nargacuga armor, which boosts your damage when behind a monster and has some interesting interactions as a result, especially with attacks on weapons that don't care about hit zones so much, like gunlance shelling or hunting horn shockwaves, and it has some bonus use in multiplayer over single player as well, especially if you're aiming to cut off a tail. As a skill, it's just interesting, and that is exactly the type of thing that I wish we had more of around. I don't know, maybe I'm just nostalgic for certain parts of Iceborne, but this specific one is something that I really thought added a ton of longevity to this game. When you finish the story of a Monster Hunter game, the first thing that most people will do is start working on a proper build that they want to use for hunting with their main weapon. Many people will then start working towards secondary or tertiary weapons they want builds for, just other things that they enjoy. But once you have these standard builds, what do? Of course, hunting is fun, and hunting just for the sake of hunting is one of the great joys of Monster Hunter. But there is also something special to being able to make tons of niche or weird builds, things that feel totally different even while playing the exact same weapon, and those types of things can keep your interest in the game going for months and months. I don't think it is 100% gone in Sunbreak, but it is absolutely very different, and I miss the way that it used to be in Iceborne. I think it worked just a little bit better. It added some flavor to a lot of the lower tier monsters, a lot of them having their own special uniqueness to their armor that no other monster had. I miss Froscraft and all of the skills like it. What about you? Do you think those skills improved Iceborne? Do you think that it just made set building more convoluted instead? Do you want more of those types of things going on in future Monster Hunter titles, or do you prefer the way that it feels in Sunbreak now? Let me know. I'm truly interested in your thoughts on this. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.